Welcome all to another episode of Pack One Pick One, where I sit down with a friend, 2, 3, 4, however many are available, and we discuss what we would pick in a draft situation. I'm sitting here with my buddy Chris, and yeah, just get right into it. Anybody who's seen the first one, sweaty hands. Anybody who's seen the first one, I will apologize. It went on a little longer than we planned, so I think what we're going to do this time is just take a brief look at the card, not necessarily read it all the way through, except for the uncommons and rare, because those are generally stronger. So, start out, we have Strange Augmentation, Backwoods Survivalist, Wretched Griff, Woodland Patrol, Succumb to Temptation. A lot of green and black already. Woodcutter's Grit. Spontaneous Mutation. Stensia Banquet. Faithbearer Paladin. On to the uncommons, we have Thirsting Axe. For 3, it's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +4/+0. At the beginning of your end step, if equipped creature didn't deal combat damage to a creature this turn, sacrifice it. Costs 2 to equip. Murder, 1 black, instant, destroy target creature. Deranged Whelp, 1 in red for 2 in wolf with menace. And the rare, Sigarda's Aid. For a white, you get enchantment. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. The flip card, Conduit of Storms, 2 in a red. It's a 2/3. When Conduit of Storms attacks, add red to your mana pool. At the beginning of the next main phase this turn, 3 red transform into Conduit of Emrakul. It's a 5/4. When it attacks, add 2 colors to your mana pool at the beginning of the next main phase this turn. I think this one will be very short, very simple. Murder.
Yeah, that's definitely a good choice. You don't really have a lot of options for such high quality removal. There's no strings, no fuss. You just get rid of a creature. And I'm seeing good cards in this pack, but I'm not seeing anything that's of that caliber. There's no build around me uncommon. There's no common that you need to get a ton of all at once. The rare is
Not good. I'm going to interrupt you right there. It's not good. Not in this situation.
I was going to say a good constructed card, not a good draft card. I definitely want one, it's just not going to do you any good here. Even if you were able to draft 2 cards and took the Thirsting Axe at the same time, they don't go together very well.
They don't. I think Murder, if this is your very first pick, which is kind of the idea of what we try to do here, Murder. Maybe Deranged Whelp, maybe the Wretched Griff to be serious, but Murder all the way. I don't even play black that often in draft.
Yeah, there's very little to stop you from taking Murder right now. If you really, really hate black, the Wretched Griff is my call for second best card in here.
Yeah, let's look at it like this. This gets passed to you, and they took Murder.
Yeah.
There's your pool.
Yeah, I would lean towards a Wretched Griff next. It's not a 7 mana 3/4. It is far more likely a 3 mana 3/4 flying draw card.
It does have a merge for 5 and a blue, so that's pretty nice. Even if it was if you didn't have the draw card part, just a 3/4 flying with a merge in draft, I think is fair. I wouldn't be against it. I do want to point out here, because you're trying to educate, and not a lot of people look at it like this. Murder was in the pack. So if this is past you, and they took it, great. If they did not take Murder, let's say they took the rare, you don't know what the rare would be because they picked it. If Murder gets past to you, it's a pretty safe bet that black is open. Because the only way I think somebody would pass Murder, they're not experienced, or this was an insanely good black rare or mythic. Murder is really good. let's say they did take murder, and this is your pick. I would not touch black. Based on this right here, because this is draw 2 and lose 2 life. This is a power-up. I don't think we need to go any farther into it. Power-ups are not something you want to go for in draft. And if you do, equipment, I think, is better. But I don't like black here. If we get murder, great. If we don't, no.
Yeah, and it's tough to read the signs on the first, 2 picks.
Definitely.
Just because those rares are in the way, and people are going to take the rares no matter, if it's a good rare, they're going to take the rare regardless of color. And then there's the rare drafters who are just going to take the rares just because it's rare. So, know your format, know how people play in your area. But definitely, if you see murder on pick 3,
yes,
you can go black. But I'd be wary about saying black is 100% open on pick 2. Because they might have had a Gisela or something in their pack. I mean, there's things I would take over murder. They're just all mythics.
Yeah, there are definitely cards anybody would take over murder. But right here, I like murder. And to go with what I said about if they took murder and it's not in the pack anymore for you, black is being cut off. If you get murder, it's obviously open coming your way, especially pick 3 or maybe even 4. Super open in black, and you cut off black for the next 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah. And if you don't take this murder, especially if it was second pick and you don't take murder, you are not getting any black cards in pack 2.
Pretty much. The guy passing to you will be on your left in pack 2. And he's totally going to pick up as much black as possible if you're passing him a murder.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, it's a good card. There's a lot of political implications. You should take the murder when you see it.
Oh, yeah. If it's not there, you say, Wretched Griff, I'm not against it, but aside from that, deranged well. I like those 3 out of this pack.
Yep.
Conduit of Storms is okay.
We're looking at evasion. Flying, potential card draw, it's big. He's looking at the menace being kind of annoying to have to block.
Menace, early pressure. 2 for 2/1 that can't be blocked unless it's by 2 creatures, And then the obvious removal. A lot of people told me when I started drafting that something to kind of keep in mind is bread. And bread is bombs, removal, evasion, aggression, and then the D is discarded, whatever. I don't know what the D is because it's the bottom of the list. But I always think of bread. So you want to go for your bombs, which just cannot be dealt with easily, no matter what it is, what it does. And then your removal and evasion.
Yep. And that's almost always true. There are a couple of draft sets out there that the removal is just so bad, you're better off just playing extra creatures.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying it like it's 100%, but it is a good way to think of it. Pack 2, we got Drag Under, Swift Spinner, Gavany Unhollowed, Bloodbriar, Stensia Banquet, Iron Rites Cleansing. The first 6 cards, we got a good variety in color. I like it already. We have Displace, Terrarian. On to our uncommons. Geist of the Lonely Vigil. 1 and a white is a 2/3 defender flying. Delirium. Geist of the Lonely Vigil can attack as though it didn't have defender as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Insatiable Gorgers. 2 red. 5/3. Must attack each combat if able. And Madness. 3 and a red. We have Scour the Laboratory. 4 blue for an instant. Delirium. It costs 2 less to cast if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Draw 3. Kind of trying to fix Treasure Cruise, I suppose. Our rare, Heron's Grace Champion. 2 green-white for 3/3 flash lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, other humans you control get +1/+1 and gain lifelink until end of turn. Flip card, Midnight Scavengers. 4 and a black for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. There are 2 cards here. The flip side is 1/2 of, I don't know the name, Chittering Host. So it's a 5/6 haste with menace. When Chittering Host enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain menace until end of turn. And then the other flip is a rare Hanweir Garrison, 2 red for a 2 and a red for a 2/3. When it attacks, put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking. And then it melds with Hanweir Battlements to make the bottom half of that. It's a 7/4 trample haste. When it Hanweir the Writhing Township attacks, put 2 3/2 colors Eldrazi horror creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking.
So we got 2 of the meld cards in this one.
We did.
So one's common, one's rare. I'm not thinking that. I mean, I don't have the set memorized, but I don't think that the other half of the Garrison is a common.
I believe it's a rare.
Yeah, so getting a pair of rares at the same time doesn't seem likely.
I think this one, the other half, is uncommon. I'm not sure about that, though, because I have heard that you see a lot of the other piece of this. I don't know, though. I don't know for sure. I don't know about you, but I'm just going to immediately say, just like Murder, Heron's Grace Champion. I will pick that any day.
Yeah, you're looking at a 3/3 and flash in green and white are decent colors, so you're not hurting if you're picking that up first. It's got lifelink, which is nice. I'm not so into the human sub-theme part. Just glancing at the other cards in our pack, the only other humans are black and red, so we don't even have another green or white human in this pack. Which doesn't, as somebody who doesn't have the set memorized, that's not looking like a great sub-theme to me when I don't see it in any of the other cards. And I know we've got a lot of good spirits. I know zombies is a thing. Humans doesn't feel like a great one to me, especially if the good ones are going to end up splashed across other colors.
Yeah.
Still, 3/3 flash lifelink for 4 is hard to pass up. Just glancing at the other cards, I don't dislike the Hanweir Garrison. I would not count on flipping it, not in any way.
Not with the other piece being rare as well.
Yeah. You'll never get to transform it, but it is a 2/3 that you get 2 extra 1/1 bodies when you attack with it. So if you're looking for something to, if you like the strategy of just dumping a whole bunch of stuff down, it's 3 bodies for the price of 1.
It's a fair cost of body, too. 3 for a 2/3.
And they're humans. So if there really is a good human sub-theme, you now have a red human card that even the tokens can benefit from anything you throw in there. And it doesn't lock you into 2 colors like the Heron's Grace Champion will.
It does kind of lock you in there. Okay, let's look at it like this, because they're rares, so you're not going to see them frequently. Of these, just the commons and uncommons, I definitely like Geist of the Lonely Vigil. 2 for 2/3, Defender, good. Defender flying, great. It could possibly attack. I'm never going to try to, but I'll take it. And I definitely like being able to have 2 mana for 2/3 Defender with flying.
Yeah, and if I was going to pick out of the commons and uncommons, I know there's a good spirit sub-theme, so the Geist is definitely good, but I wouldn't underestimate that Gavany Unhallowed. We've had cards like it in the past, where whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. But where this one shines is it starts as a 2/4, so it comes down and it survives pretty good on its own. And similarly to how the Geist is at its best if you've got something to either boost Delirium or if you've got a spirit theme, the Gavany Unhallowed loves Emerge. You're putting down things just to feed to the Eldrazi, basically, and that thing gets bigger every time you do so, and it costs 4, which that's just 4 mana towards your huge Eldrazi you're playing later, even if you just eat the Gavany Unhallowed. So I'm thinking it does a decent amount of work in if you're looking to play the Eldrazi deck. We're early on. If this is pack one, pick one. And you're not really certain about what theme you want to try to go for, if you want to force it. The Geist is a decent pick, but I would lean towards the Unhallowed because it's a little easier to play in any old deck. You don't have to do anything fancy. Bloodbriar, for instance, up here is when you sacrifice another permanent, you get a counter. That takes a lot more effort than just whenever your opponent kills any of your other guys, he gets bigger.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. I just didn't want to interrupt you, like I feel like I just did. I did want to agree with your point on Emerge, and this also works with it, just not as well. But we do have clue tokens. So with green, blue and green, mostly in shadows. I haven't seen a lot of things that make clues in this set, but blue and green are kind of the clue colors. And so if you happen to get a good clue deck going, Bloodbriar, I think, is just as good. One less mana, but one less toughness. So I think that kind of balance out for what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I think this one just comes down to what kind of decks do you like playing. I like playing those big stompy creatures. So Gavany Unhallowed gets big and can help get the Eldrazi down. Bloodbriar kind of does the same thing. I wouldn't pick him because you have to sacrifice. Gavany works on his own.
Yeah.
But in general, for this one, we definitely would have picked one of the two rares.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to point out, assuming that this is not, let's say it's pack 2 or 3, I do want to point out that these are okay blue cards, but looking at the rest, you have quite the variety of colors. So no matter what you're doing, I think this was just a good pack in general.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for your opponent to read what you're passing them. This one did not have any cards that we felt, if I pass this, I'm locking myself out of those colors. Because even the human, the green-white one, maybe you just don't want to play those two colors in particular. I know people who won't play like white just because they don't like white.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or in draft, there's
right.
Or people who won't play green in draft because there's no removal. I don't think it's wrong to pass any of them.
Yeah, I think it was just a good pack. Excellent choices for all. We got this one, a card that I already really like a lot right on top. Take Inventory. Great draw card. If you can get more than one. If it's only one, Got Tattered Haunter, Borrowed Grace, Swift Spinner, Cemetery Recruitment, Thermo Alchemist, Fiendbinder, Turn Aside, Alchemist's Greeting. Our first in common is Geist Fueled Scarecrow. 4 for 4/4. Creature spells you cast cost 1 more to cast. Deranged Whelp, we've seen. 1 in a red for 2/1 menace. Chilling Grasp that we just saw a little early. 2 in a blue, instant, tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Madness, 3 in a blue. And our rare card being Crypt Breaker. 1 black, you get a 1/1 zombie. 1 black tap, discard a card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Tap 3 untap zombies you control, you draw a card, and you lose 1 life. Flip card, Grizzled Angler. 2 in a blue for a 2/3. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then if there is a colorless creature card in your graveyard, transform it into Grizzly Anglerfish. It's a 4/5, tap 6. Creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. I feel like this is just like the last pack. There's a lot of good stuff in various colors. I liked Crypt Breaker, Chilling Grasp, Thermal Alchemist, Take Inventory, Haunter, Fiendbinder. The Spider's alright. I definitely wouldn't want to pick it first. But then there's some good red removal there. 4 damage to a creature.
I think that this pack is going to be a bit like the last pack in that Crypt Breaker is just so good.
Oh, yes.
You're looking at a creature that's cheap. Its cost is reasonable. You discard the worst card in your hand and you get a 2/2. It's instant speed when you do that, so you can use it to go and make a surprise blocker or to change combat. Your opponent always has to be thinking about how you could be making zombies. And then we've seen a couple zombies around, so you could just have a little zombie tribal going. So to go with your tap 3 zombies, you gain a card and lose 1 life. That is an easy way of getting back those cards you just discarded, maybe even more. I don't see anything in this pack that's better than the Crypt Breaker's ability to just turn every dead draw into a 2/2 zombie. It's just so much pressure. It comes down so early, and it can just get you ahead of the game almost immediately.
I do like that. One more thing I want to add on to it. If you get him down and he lives long enough to make more zombies, or you played other zombies, just tapping 3 zombies fuels himself. I like that a lot. He keeps himself going if you have enough creatures down.
Yeah, you don't have to draft other zombies. He can go into any deck and make his own zombies.
He most certainly could, and I would not be surprised if you just drafted that to play it in a black-red vampire deck, because, oh, look at this. Madness. The removal I pointed out. You discard this for a zombie, and it's 1 and a red to burn a creature for 4.
I didn't even think about that. With Madness in this set, Crypt Breaker is amazing.
It's very good.
Alchemist's Gambit, or Alchemist's Greeting, is kind of meh on its own. It does 4 damage, it only hits creatures, and it costs 5, and it's a sorcery. There's so much going against it.
True.
Until you can Madness it, because Madness does not care about timing. You discard that to Crypt Breaker on your opponent's turn, you just torched something for only 2 mana there.
Oh, yeah. If they go into combat, you use this, now you have a zombie to block, and you burn something. You just stop 2 blockers with a single card, and you can get the token with anything, but in this example, it's a 2-for-2 trade.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
You open up with that Crypt Breaker, you are looking for Madness cards. You are looking to make that your theme, and black-red is definitely a good way to go. You don't even read. I mean, it's possible that Alchemist's Greeting might table too, just because it's kind of a mediocre removal. I mean, it's removal, but at 5 mana sorcery, you're basically fighting somebody else with Madness over it. You're probably going to, if there are a couple to your right, those are going to probably come to you. They're not really that great to take early, I don't think.
Pick 3 or 4. If they're not red, you'll definitely see them. Will it table? I would not agree with you on that. I think it's red. Yes, it's a sorcery. Yes, it costs 5. But if you're playing red, there's a good chance that you'll be able to discard it and pay the Madness cost. So that fixes the cost and the sorcery speed. But I don't think it would table.
It still only hits creatures, though, which...
Sure.
I mean, it's basically got all 3 things that make a red burn spell terrible. It's just that Madness is making it playable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play that card without a way to discard it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we agree. You take the Crypt Breaker. If it's not there, you get this passed to you. I know you changed your mind on that one. I would say, obviously depending on your colors, I like Take Inventory, Fiendbinder, and Thermo Alchemist. This is something that I regret in my last draft. I passed 2 of these. It's very nice. It's a 2 mana for 0/3 Defender, which is nice already. You can tap him, do 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap him. So it looks pretty good right there, and being red and blue, not hard to pick up instants and sorceries,
Yeah, and what I'm seeing is that there aren't a lot of high power creatures, so that 0/3 is pretty relevant. It's going to block a decent number of those early aggressive guys, the non-flying ones anyway.
Yeah. Hey, look at our strongest creature here. It makes your other spells cost more. Or, no, creature spells. My mistake. Creature spells you cast cost 1 more. No. I would not play that. If it was like, for whatever reason, I drafted a single color deck, I would put Turnicide in. It just counters a spell that targets a permanent you control over this guy.
Yeah, Turnicide is definitely. I mean, even this early. Say you're looking at pick two. There's no rare. Turnicide is really strong. Like I don't even play counter spells that often, but keeping up a single blue mana to mess with one of your opponent's um, removal spells, and you only need to play it once. Once you've countered one of their spells, you leave an island untapped, and they're going to be second guessing themselves the rest of the game.
Oh, most definitely, especially being a common.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely a fair argument. I do like this pack. It's a lot like the last one. I feel it leans a little bit more blue, but yeah, I like Chilling Grasp. It's not a good thing. The chill effects. I'm biased towards chill effects, but it's not a great card. I would not be ashamed to take it. If I'm taking blue, I will take Tattered Haunter or take inventory over it. If I'm good on creatures, I would skip this for take inventory. If I needed early threats or even just creatures at all, I'll take the Haunter. But
yeah,
I like this section here. These two and the Fiendbinder. My next pick would probably be Fiendbinder.
yeah. Just getting that free tap in there.
Yeah, Fiendbinder or the Tattered Haunter. I definitely like those.
Yeah, even knowing that I don't usually play a lot of counter spells, if I didn't have the Crypt Baker to choose from, I'm thinking my pick would be Turnicide.
Yeah.
I know that's going to be picked pretty highly among anyone going blue. I feel like I like the white and blue like spirit deck, but there's so many of them, or so many options for the spirits that I'm not feeling like I'm going to be hurting on creatures. I think it's the things like Turnicide that are going to be harder for me to pick up later in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, Turnicide, take inventory. I feel like those are. I really highly doubt that a Thermal Alchemist would ever go around the table. But looking at this pack with Crypt Breaker in there, I think those are all fine cards. And little less for your green and your white and your black. This is mostly blue and red, but I feel like there's a good variety in there too.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, there you have it. This is episode 2. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, found it informative. If you do, leave a like. We greatly appreciate that, more than you guys even know. And if you did find this informative, share it with your friends who are maybe thinking about getting into draft, and maybe it'll help them with some success stories. So, thank you guys.